Fred as possible.
Well, welcome everyone to the Crown and Central Agencies meetings. I'm Fred Bradshaw, the chair. With them, we have Nathaniel Teed, deputy chair, Stephen Bonk, Ken Shuttledayoff, Mark Docherty, Greg Lawrence, and Doug Steele. Committee members, before you, we have a copy of today's meeting notice, which is on our agenda. Today, we will be considering annual reports for Crown Investments Corporation of Saskatchewan, provincial auditor report chapters for the Standing Committee on Crown and Central Agencies and Saskatchewan Gaming Corporation, annual reports for Saskatchewan Gaming Corporation, and an annual report for Sask Water. First, we will consider the Crown Investments Corporation of Saskatchewan 2021-22 annual report, the CIC Asset Management Incorporated financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2022, the Capital Pension Plan 2021-22 annual report, and the 2020-21 and 2021-22 Crown Investments Corporation and Crown subsidiaries pay disclosure reports. Minister Morgan, would you please introduce your officials and make your opening comments? And I would like to remind the officials that when you go to speak at the beginning, could you please state your name for answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be here before the Standing Committee on Crown and Central Agents to answer questions related to a few Crown Investments Corporation reports. This is my first opportunity to have had the opportunity and answer to congratulate the new member for his success in the by-election. I know that he worked hard in the by-election. I did my best door knocking to prevent him from being here, so it's only appropriate that I offer him congratulations and best wishes. I do note that he is off to a great start. We had a standing vote in the House today, and I see that he is voting with the Saskatchewan Party 100% of the time, and he's the only one on that side of the House that can claim that, and I want to thank him for his support on that. In any event, the bill was dealing with affordability, and I want to thank him and all members for having supported that. With me this afternoon are officials from CIC, Mr. Kent Campbell, President and CEO, Ms. Cindy Ogilvie, Senior Vice President and CFO, Ms. Kyla Hilmer, Vice President, Corporate Services, and is very particular about keeping things square on her desk, and we will adjust those during the day, Mr. Tim Highmore, Vice President, Crown Sector Initiatives, Mr. David Brock, Vice President, Energy Security, Ms. Joanne Johnson, Executive Director, Communications, Ms. Melanie Gerlich, Assistant Controller, Mr. Chris Buchan, Director, Strategic Policy and Stakeholder Engagement, Brad Hunt, Senior Analyst, Finance and Administration, and my Chief of Staff, Charles Reed. Items on the agenda for consideration today are the 2021-22 Crown Investment Corporation Annual Report, which includes the consolidated financial statements for the Crown sector and the separate statements for CIC. The CIC Asset Management Inc. financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2022, the 2021-22 Capital Pension Plan Annual Report, the 2021 and 2021-22 Crown Investments Corporation and subsidiary Crown's payee disclosure reports. As the holding company for Saskatchewan's commercial crowns, CIC provides leadership, guidance, and support to a resilient and responsive Crown sector. Year after year, under the leadership of CIC, Crown Corporation provides financial returns to the province to support government priorities in healthcare, education, highways, social services, and much more. The sector also delivers affordable, safe, and reliable services that benefit our people, communities, businesses, and industries, and attract private sector investments. Highlights of the Crown sector's 2021-22 financial results include, firstly, net earnings of $361 million, $327 million paid to the GRF in dividends and equity repayments, bringing the total paid to the GRF over the past 5 years to more than $1.2 billion. Capital spending of $1.6 billion to upgrade technology and enhance system integrity and reliability, as well as expand to accommodate new investments. Crown assets totaling $21.6 billion with $10.7 billion in debt at year-end and a debt ratio of 60.4% and a return on equity of 5.7%. As publicly owned entities, the Crown corporations must strike a balance between commercial operations and delivery on public policy initiatives. SaskTel's Rural Broadband Program, Sask Power's Community Rink Program, and Sask Energy's Residential Equipment Replacement Rebate are great examples of how the Crown corporations provide additional value to customers and enhance the quality of life in Saskatchewan. Improving service reliability and accessibility across the province is top of mind for the Crown corporations. In 2021-22, through capital spending, the Crown sector injected $1.6 billion into the economy to enhance system integrity and expand capacity to support new investment and job creation. Projects such as the Great Plains Power Station in Moose Jaw, SaskTel's 5G network modernization project, and Sask Energy's Rosetown to Vanscoy expansion project have supported local jobs, created economic spin-offs, and improved services for customers. While maintaining and improving infrastructure and preparing for future growth, the Crown corporations work hard to keep utility costs affordable for the people of Saskatchewan. In 2021, the sector achieved the lowest cost utility bundle in Canada. The ongoing Ukraine-Russian conflict has highlighted the significance of energy security around the world. Meanwhile, sustainability and energy transition to lower emitting generation remains a focus for our government and the Crown sector. Progress on the small reactor technology for future clean power generation and incorporation of more renewable power sources in the grid are ways for Saskatchewan to continue enjoying reliable electricity while continuing our commitment to a cleaner future. There has been a strong focus to work as one team between the Crown sector, ministries, and agencies, managing complex issues facing the Crowns, such as energy security and achieving Saskatchewan Growth Plan targets requires teamwork. I am pleased to report that various collaboration initiatives in 2021-22 achieved cost savings of close to $49 million for the Crown sector. In addition, these efforts have reduced red tape and streamlined service for our customers. CIC and its subsidiary Crowns will keep up this great work. I thank the Crown sector for being an integral part of Saskatchewan's growth and supporting the high quality of life that many of us enjoy in the province. Mr. Chair, with that, we'd certainly be prepared to take any questions from any members that are here.
Well, thank you, Minister Morgan. Are there any questions? Seeing none? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Teague.
I just was wondering if you could provide a little bit more color to the equity advance and repayment guidelines. So this year we saw $177 million was taken by government from Crowns in equity to the GRF, and none last year. Why did we see that?
There's different methods of accounting. There's I'm going to let Mr. Campbell advise, but there's different accounting methods that money can be taken by way of dividends or equity repayments, and the difference is really where it shows on the balance sheet. But I'll certainly let Mr. Campbell provide a bit more context than that.
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, so equity repayments are made periodically, unlike dividends, which are on a more regular basis. And they're, the way we look at them is we look at, first of all, the Crown's individual capital needs. Are they investing in the required capital to make the investments and to stay current on providing other services? Then we look at their debt levels, and we monitor all the debt levels across all of the Crowns. And then if there's surplus cash there, then equity repayments can be paid back to the Crown. And that's what happened in that case. You don't see it every year, but you see it. We've probably seen it maybe a couple of times over the past 5 or 6 years.
Are there any ratio measures that the CIC uses when it comes to those equity withdrawals?
So one of the main measures we would look at would be the debt ratios for each of the Crowns, which is outlined in the annual report. You can see we track those. And we track those based upon what makes sense for comparable businesses in those industries. So your debt ratio might be different for a SaskTel than a Sask Gaming than a Sask Power. So that's one of the primary metrics we use. And maybe I'll just have Cindy provide any further context around how we might assess that.
Good afternoon, Cindy Ogilvie, Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. No, I think Kent has answered appropriately the question. Yeah, nothing further to add.
Are there like any worries with the market, you know, by having varying levels of equity withdraw? Do you find, like, do investors worry about that, or would there be like a material difference in taking equity than taking dividends from Crown corporations?
I think the test that's used every year is maintaining the viability of the Crowns. The Crowns, as you're likely aware, do borrow money from private sector banks or from commercial banks, and they would look at the overall debt equity and whether the debt equity shows as way of unpaid shareholders' loans or whatever. They would look at the total debt equity, and I don't think a lending institution would make a distinction between them. The Crown, as Mr. Campbell said, they make the distinction, but I don't think a lender would make the distinction. And I think for the benefit of the citizens of the province, the important thing is that we maintain the Crowns as being well capitalized and able to meet the requirements of providing continued service and making adequate plans for future capital and infrastructure expenditure. So I don't think it's a matter of saying, should we do this, or it's a matter of, is there sufficient capital there, or will there be sufficient capital over whatever the multi-year capital spend is? And as you're likely aware, we're going through some significant expenditures right now at SaskTel with the rural broadband build out. And then we have started to spend money, and we'll spend more at SaskPower as we modernize the grid. And if we enter into some further development on a small modular reactor, and it appears there's significant interest and support, then that would certainly change the borrowing plans. While I'm talking about small modular reactors, I'd like to thank the critic for her support and understanding, and it's appreciated, because I think maintaining a secure electricity supply is critical for the citizens of the province. We want to do as much as we can for renewal, but having strong, reliable baseload power is absolutely essential. Sorry I went on so long.
Good question, because we were, one of my notes is to chat about what does the CIC have, what's the role of the CIC in those SMRs? What role do you see that?
I'm gonna let Mr. Campbell sort of give you a bit of the structural thing. We've made a consolidation into a nuclear secretariat, but it's spread across the nuclear secretariat resides at CIC, but it has got relationships with the Ministry of the Environment, and in fact has brought some people over from the Ministry of the Environment. And then there are a group of people right within SaskPower that are working on it as well. So it's a structure that they're working and trying to have the right balance of people to try and move things forward. The process at this point in time is complex, because they're going through the site selection process and the public consultation, which means having an engagement with various public entities, municipalities, et cetera, of the two potential locations that have been identified, as well as laying the groundwork for the licensing and regulatory process with the federal government, and getting things arranged so that we have a good business structure for the entity to have within our province. And I'll give you the quick example of who we might have for a partner or somebody else involved. Would be First Nations Power Authority, or a variety of other groups that might choose to, but FNPA has expressed some significant interest, so we certainly have those as ongoing discussion points. I don't know whether you want to.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe I would just add a couple of points to that. And so you can think of SaskPower as the entity that is the project proponent, and considering, I mean, they've selected a technology. They're currently looking at a couple of regions for sites. They'll be the ones that would be ultimately bringing a decision forward as to whether government would proceed with an SMR or not, and the licensing process and all that. In the case of Crown Investments Corporation, we provide oversight for the corporation and towards that. We also have a unit that we've established this year called the Energy Security Unit, which the minister referenced, includes nuclear secretariat responsibilities. And so sort of thinking about the broader things beyond a utility that you'd consider in relation to SMRs. So thinking about how do we support the education system, work with our education stakeholders to develop training programs that might then link into the potential for SMRs. Or what can we do in relation to supplier development to ensure that Saskatchewan companies are able to contribute to the supply chains, whether that be SMRs in Saskatchewan or elsewhere. So we kind of take a bit of that broader perspective and think about some of those economic development opportunities in association with government, other government agencies.
I had a question of the background on the SIIF CIC AMI amalgamation. Has the SIIF mandate ended, or does it carry on through the CIC AMI?
SIIF, Saskatchewan Immigrant Investor Fund, its mandate has ended. It was wound up and all of the funds were repaid to the federal government at the end of last year. Yep.
Perfect. In the last, and the last question I had was just, we have a hot topic on interest rates right now. Is interest rate any more concern for CIC now than it has been in the past? And what reasonable assurance can CIC provide that is being mitigated as necessary?
Is your question with regard to customers or with regard to CIC's borrowing itself? I can answer both if you want.
Primarily with probably CIC's borrowing itself.
Yeah. If you look at the balance sheets of each of the crowns, it lists what the bank debt would be, and those debts are ongoing and may over the next while increase. So to answer the simple question, interest rates are a concern, will be a concern, is something they want to closely monitor. It's part of the process that would go into place for CIC to make a decision whether a project should go ahead or should be scaled back or should be changed. From a cash perspective, they're in a relatively good position right now, and a good position with regard to the Ministry of Finance. But I think anytime that there's a change in a cost by way of an interest change or whatever, it's of some significance as they plan to go forward, because it's a cost. I don't know whether.
I think that's a good summary, Minister. And we do, when the Crowns do borrowing, they do it in collaboration and through the Ministry of Finance with the Government of Saskatchewan. And so the Government of Saskatchewan's credit rating is quite favorable, and that helps too. But of course, increases in interest rates will affect the cost of borrowing for the Crowns.
Earlier this year, the three of us went to Toronto and met with the head offices of all of the Canadian banks to get an understanding of what their assessment of their financial picture might be, or their assessment of how Saskatchewan is, but to make sure there was good relationships there, so that if longer-term money was needed for borrowing, that the Crowns would be in a position to work with CIC and the Ministry of Finance to secure the loans that are necessary.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Are there any more questions out from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I will ask a member to move that we conclude consideration of the Crown Investments Corporation Saskatchewan 2021-22 annual report, the CIC Asset Management Incorporated financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2022, the Capital Pension Plan 2021-22 annual report, and the 2020 21 and 21-22 Crown Investments Corporation and Crown subsidiaries pay disclosure reports. I'm asking for a member to move that we conclude consideration.
Chair, I so shall move.
Mr. Shuttledayoff has moved that we conclude consideration. Is that agreed? Carried.
We'll recess and join the provincial auditor in it.
Yeah, yeah. That concludes our business for Crown Investments Corporation of Saskatchewan. Minister Morgan, do you want to make any final comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank the officials that are here today, including the members. As well, I'd like to include the people in our thanks in the Ledge Assembly service, the security staff, building staff, and people that make this building function as it does every day, as well as the people at CIC who have worked hard to prepare financial information as is required, not just for today, but for a variety of other purposes. We don't thank our civil service nearly as often or as much as we do. They're people that are the ones that are responsible for keeping the lights on and the telephones working, and not to mention the folks in and outside of the Crown sector. So want to use this as an opportunity to thank all of them for everything that they do.
Mr. Tweed, do you want to make any comments?
Additional comments.
Okay, next we'll be moving into consideration for the provincial, yeah, I know, provincial auditors chapter relating to this committee. Minister, you're going to have to bear with us for a brief period. We'll consider this item. We're going to have to sit back and wait for a little bit here while we have a quick recess to get the other officials in here. So thank you.